The engine sound changed first. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a subtle stutter, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop before your brain understands why. 16-year-old Don Fendler pressed his face against the small airplane window, watching the endless green carpet below. July 1939. The height of summer. But up here, above the wilderness of Maine, the air felt thin and cold. The pilot adjusted something. Checked the gauge. Said nothing. Don's father sat across from him, calm as always. They were heading to Mount Katahdin, Maine's highest peak, for what was supposed to be a family adventure. A bonding trip. Something Don would remember forever. He would remember it. Just not the way anyone planned. Below them, the forest stretched in every direction. No roads. No towns. No signs of human life. Just trees. Rivers. Mountains that rose like sleeping giants. The plane descended through gathering clouds. And somewhere in that descent, Don Fendler's fate was already written. This is the true story of a boy who walked into hell and somehow walked back out. Mount Katahdin wasn't just any mountain. It was, and still is, the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. A beast of granite and forest that towers over 5,200 feet. Indigenous peoples called it the greatest mountain. They knew what they were talking about. On July 17, 1939, Don stood at the base with his father, his twin brother Ryan, their older brothers, and several family friends. The weather was perfect. Blue skies. Warm sun. The kind of day that makes you forget nature has teeth. They started the climb mid-morning. The trail was steep but manageable. Don was strong for his age, athletic, confident, used to the outdoors. This wasn't his first hike. He kept pace easily, joking with his brothers, taking in the views as the tree line gradually thinned. But weather in the mountains doesn't ask permission. By early afternoon, clouds rolled in like a tide. Thick, fast, unnaturally dark. The temperature dropped 15 degrees in minutes. Then the rain started. Not a gentle summer shower, a cold, punishing downpour that turned the trail into a river. Visibility collapsed. The rocks became slick. What had been an adventure turned into a dangerous scramble. Don's father made the call, "Turn back." They started descending, staying close, calling out to each other through the rain and fog. And that's when it happened. Don, moving quickly, confident in his footing, pulled ahead of the group. Just slightly. Just enough. He turned a corner. The fog swallowed him. When his father called his name 30 seconds later, Don was already too far to hear. Don heard voices behind him. Faint. Muffled by rain. He stopped, turned, called back. Nothing. He retraced his steps, or thought he did. But in the fog, every tree looked the same. Every rock formation. Every turn in the trail. He called again. Dad. Ryan. The forest absorbed his voice like it was nothing. Panic tried to creep in, but Don pushed it down. He was 16. Strong. Smart. He'd been taught what to do if he got lost. Stay put, stay calm, wait for rescue. But standing still in the cold rain felt wrong. Dangerous. He was already soaked through. Already shivering. So Don made a decision. He would walk downhill. Everyone knows. Rivers flow downhill. Civilization is near water. Follow gravity, find people. It was logical. It was reasonable. It was the decision that nearly killed him. Because Don wasn't on a gentle hiking trail anymore. He was on the northern slope of Mount Katahdin, and downhill didn't lead to a parking lot or a ranger station. It led deeper into the Penobscot River watershed, one of the most remote wilderness areas in the eastern United States. Over 200,000 acres of unbroken forest. No roads. No cabins. No way out. By the time the sun set, not that Don could see it through the clouds, he had walked miles in the wrong direction. And he had no idea. The first night is when reality hit. Don found a massive fallen tree, a huge old pine that had toppled in some long-ago storm. Its root system created a small hollow underneath, just big enough to crawl into. He wedged himself inside, pulling his knees to his chest. The temperature was dropping fast. Probably into the low 40s. Maybe colder. Don was wearing a light cotton shirt, thin pants, sneakers that were already falling apart. No jacket. No hat. No gloves. He had nothing else. No food. No matches. No knife. No map. The supplies were with his father. Don tried to stay calm. Tried to think clearly. They'd be looking for him. His dad would organize a search party. Someone would find him in the morning. He just had to survive the night. But the cold was vicious. It crept into his bones, made his muscles spasm, turned his teeth into chattering machines he couldn't control. Sleep was impossible. Every sound became a threat. Branches cracking. Wind through leaves. Something moving in the darkness. Could be a deer, could be a bear, could be a mountain lion. Don had heard the stories. Maine had black bears. Big ones. And while attacks were rare, a starving bear wouldn't ask questions. He pulled himself tighter into the hollow and waited. Waited for dawn. Waited for rescue. Waited for anything but this terrible, predatory silence. Morning brought no rescue. Just more rain. More fog. More endless trees. Don crawled out of his shelter, every muscle screaming. His throat was raw from thirst. His stomach felt like it was eating itself. He found a small stream, water rushing over rocks, ice cold and clear. He lay on his stomach and drank. The water was so cold it hurt his teeth, but it was life. Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. They blurred together. Don walked south, or what he thought was south. Without the sun, without landmarks, direction became meaningless. He found berries. Small red ones that might have been safe. He ate them anyway. Some made him sick. Some didn't. He stopped caring which was which. His sneakers disintegrated. First the soles separated. Then the canvas tore. By day 5 he was walking barefoot. The forest floor was a nightmare. Sharp rocks. Broken branches. Thorns. Roots that caught his feet and sent him sprawling. His feet split open. Blood. Kept bleeding. But he kept walking. Because stopping felt like dying. At night, Don started climbing trees to sleep. He'd heard that bears couldn't climb well, which wasn't true, but the belief gave him comfort. He'd find a sturdy branch 10 or 15 feet up, wedge himself against the trunk, and try to sleep without falling. Some nights he succeeded. Some nights he woke up on the ground with no memory of falling. His mind started playing tricks. He heard his father calling his name. He saw his brothers standing between trees, waving at him. He heard airplane engines overhead and screamed until his voice gave out, only to realize the sound was just wind through the branches. The search parties were real. Hundreds of volunteers. Plants. Dogs. They were looking. But the wilderness was too big. And Don was too small. By day 7, Don wasn't walking anymore. He was stumbling. Falling. Crawling. His body was shutting down. He'd lost nearly 20 pounds. His ribs showed through his skin. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken, lips cracked and bleeding. Hunger had stopped being pain. Now it was just emptiness. A hollow feeling that went all the way through him. Then he reached the river. The Penobscot's east branch. Wide, fast, and freezing cold. It was the biggest obstacle he'd faced. Don stood on the bank, swaying, barely able to think. Cross it or turn back. Turning back meant retracing days of walking. Meant admitting defeat. Crossing it might kill him. But staying put definitely would. Don stepped into the water. The cold hit him like a physical blow. His legs went numb instantly. The current grabbed him, tried to pull him downstream. He couldn't swim. Not really, not in this condition. He waded. Stumbled. Fell to his hands and knees in the shallows. The water was waist deep in the middle. Then chest deep. For a terrifying moment, Don thought he'd made a fatal mistake. His feet couldn't find the bottom. The current spun him. He went under. Swallowed water. Came up gasping, flailing, certain he was about to drown after surviving a week in hell. Then his foot hit a rock. He pushed. Grabbed a branch on the far side. Pulled himself onto the bank and collapsed. He lay there in the mud, shaking violently, too weak to move. But he'd made it. And somehow, that river, the thing that almost killed him, would be what saved him. Because rivers lead to people. Day 8 was a fog. Don walked. Walked. His mind drifted in and out. He talked to people who weren't there. Argued with his brothers. Apologized to his father. Promised his mother he'd make it home. Then, on day 9, July 26, 1939, Don saw something impossible. A structure. Man-made. A small lumber camp on the east branch of the Penobscot. At first, he thought it was another hallucination. But as he got closer, stumbling down the riverbank, he saw people. Real people. 2 men were working near the camp. One looked up. Saw what he thought was an animal emerging from the forest. Then realized it was a child. A skeleton of a child. Barefoot. Shredded clothes. Covered in cuts, bruises, insect bites. Eyes wild and distant. Jesus Christ, one of the men whispered. They ran to him. Don tried to speak but couldn't. His voice was gone. One of the men, a lumberjack named Chandler, picked Don up like he weighed nothing. Because he didn't. Not anymore. They carried him inside. Gave him water. Warm broth. Wrapped him in blankets. Asked him his name. Don, he whispered. Don Fendler. The men looked at each other. They knew that name. Everyone in Maine knew that name. The boy who'd been missing for 9 days. The boy everyone thought was dead. They got him to a hospital as fast as they could. When Don's father saw him, he wept. Don Fendler spent 2 weeks in the hospital. His feet were destroyed. Cut to ribbons, infected, swollen beyond recognition. Doctors weren't sure he'd ever walk normally again. He did. Within months, Don was back on his feet. Back to school. Back to being a regular teenager. But he was never the same. How could he be? He'd stared into the face of death for 9 days straight. He'd learned that the wilderness doesn't care about your age, your strength, or your will to live. It just is. And you either adapt or you disappear. Don wrote a book about his experience called Lost on a Mountain in Maine. It became required reading in Maine schools for decades. Tens of thousands of students learned his story. Not as a fairy tale. As a warning. The wilderness is beautiful. It's majestic. And it will kill you without hesitation if you give it the chance. Don Fendler lived to be 90 years old. He died in 2016, surrounded by family. But part of him, the part that crawled through those 9 days, never really left that forest. Because survival isn't about being strong. It's not about being brave. It's about refusing to stop moving. Even when every cell in your body is screaming to lie down. Even when hope is gone. Even when the silence becomes so heavy you can't breathe. You take one more step. And then another. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough.